Okay, in this video, I'm going to talk about absolute value inequalities. Now, in order to solve an absolute value inequality, you have to know how to solve an absolute value compound, or excuse me, a compound inequality, because that's what these turn into. This inequality is going to turn into two small inequalities, and it's going to be compound. So we're either going to have a separation with the word and or the word or, because that's what compound means. Okay, so don't even look at this side. Let's talk about greater than 10. So I have an absolute value greater than 10. So if I go back and I think about that, absolute value is distance from 0. So I know that if my absolute value is greater than 10 units, then that means that my distance from 0 had to be bigger than 10. So like it had to come way out here. So it couldn't be 10. It can't be in here, right? My distance has to be bigger than 10. So like 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. So somewhere over here, right here, I got to fall. Somewhere over there, bigger than 10, okay? So if my distance from 0 is greater than 10, I also have to fall somewhere over here, okay? Because these distances are greater than 10 away from 0. Think about measuring that. Like, how far is that? Well, that's farther than 10, okay? So in these inequalities, because they're absolute value inequalities, you have to first decide, is this an and or an or? Well, the answer for this, the solutions for this are either going to fall over here or over there. So this one turns into an or. So my greater thans turn into ors. Okay, an absolute value greater than a constant. Now, if the absolute value is on the other side, no, not the same. Okay, so you got to start with the absolute value. So the absolute value greater than, that tells me it's going to be an or. Okay, so that means that the numbers have to fall over here. So 5w minus 15 has to be greater than 10, or the numbers have to fall over here. So 5w minus 15 has to be less than, because these are small numbers, less than negative 10. All these numbers over here are less than negative 10. Now, I want you to look at the original inequality, and I want you to look at what happened. Okay, so here's my original inequality. Notice the only thing that really happened right here is that the absolute value symbol disappeared. And since this one was a greater than, I knew it had to be here or here, okay? And then I want you to notice on this side, look at your original and look at what you wrote. So I still have the 5w minus 15, but look at my symbol. And then look at my constant, my number, because these were over here. That's going to happen every time. And so now you're going to solve it. So I'll add 15. So 5w is greater than 25. I'll divide by 5. So w is greater than 5. Or add 15. 5w is less than 5, a negative 10 plus 5. I have $15. I spend 10. I've got 5 left. Divide by 5. So w is less than 1. So those are my two solutions. So if I wrote it in, or on the number line, I need a 1 and I need a 5. Make sure you put them where they go. So w greater than 5 looks like this. W less than 1 looks like this. This is an or, remember that. You get the money if you do this or this, so you need both pieces. So I need this piece and I need this piece. So if I'm going to write the interval notation, remember I got my comma. I go from the smallest thing shaded to the biggest thing. So the smallest thing shaded is going out to infinity, so negative infinity. And then the biggest thing shaded, well, it comes up to 1, but it doesn't include 1. Put that parentheses. And then remember, you got to have both pieces, so you union them together. And then this side, The smallest value is 5, and it goes out to 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, right, to positive infinity. You always put a parentheses around an infinity. This is an open circle, so I put a parentheses around the 5. Okay? Let's look at another one. So remember, this was a greater than. My absolute value is over here, greater than. That turned into an or. Let's look at this one. So if you notice, I've got my absolute value, but this time it's a less than. So my distance has to be less than 15. So let's talk about that. Here's 0, here's 15, here's negative 15. My distance, absolute value means distance. My distance has to be less than 15. So I could go to here, that's less than 15, or here, or here, or here, or here, or here, but I can't go past 15. Okay, I could go here, 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 here. I can't go past negative 15 because I would get too far away, because my distance is supposed to be less than or equal to 15. So since it's an equal to, that would be closed circles, which we know that's going to be those brackets. Okay, so that's the interval that I'm talking about. So if you notice on this one, I've got a less than or equal to. It's going to turn into a compound, like I said, and this one is an and, because we're going to look at where the two pieces overlap. Okay? So my 10 minus 5v has to be going this way, less than or equal to 15, and my 10 minus 5v has to go this way, so greater than or equal to negative 15. So once again, I want you to notice, look at my original, look at where I ended up. Notice that the absolute values, that's the only thing that disappeared. And then on the other side, look at my original, look at how I ended up. Look at my 10 minus 5v. Look at my symbol. Notice what happened to my symbol. And look at my 15. Notice what happened to my 15. Okay? So now I solve these. So numbers go with numbers. Don't mess with that letter. Okay, so subtract, because that's a positive. So subtract 10 from both sides. I get negative 5v is less than or equal to 5. Then I divide, because that's my inverse, multiply and divide undo each other. I divide, so since I'm dividing by negative, I have to remember to reverse that symbol, and 5 divided by negative 5 is negative 1. Okay, and same thing, don't mess with the v. Okay, so this is a positive, so subtract 10. So I get negative 5v is greater than or equal to, I lost $15 at the races, I lost $10 at the races, I've lost $25. So now I divide by negative 5. Again, I divided by negative, so my symbol has to reverse. And a negative divided by negative is a positive, and 25 divided by 5 is 5. Okay, so let's get it graphed. So on my number line, this is an and. Ands, we look for what they have in common. Where do they overlap? So on my number line, I need a negative 1. Here's 0 if that makes you feel good. And here's 5. So I want all the numbers greater than or equal to negative 1. So that's closed circle going this way. And then I want all numbers less than or equal to 5. So that's closed circle going this way. And then I want to get where they overlap. This one's beautiful because notice I have a closed circle here, so those both are included, so that's closed. And I have a closed circle here, so those are both included, so that's closed. And then where they overlap, right there in the middle. And so that's a picture right here of my solution. Okay, so now my next step is to write my interval notation. Remember, I put a comma and I put the smallest value first, the largest value second. So the smallest value is negative 1, the largest value is 5. We didn't have infinities on this one because it didn't keep going, okay? So now at negative 1, it's a closed circle. It had that equal to, so you should use a bracket on both sides.